Hello friends, welcome to learning sessions, and today in this video we are going to discuss about the second part related to the business analytics as a management tool. And further we have covered so far the data mining and the text mining, and now we are going to cover the other techniques of the same. So let's start the session over there without wasting any time. And if you have not gone through the first video, kindly do find the same on our YouTube channel, and you can also be going to our website caib.learningsessions.in, where on simply sign up you'll be getting access to all the PDFs free of cost. So do visit over there. The link is also there in the description. So let's start the session over there, and it's related to the business analytics as a management tool part 2, right? So it's related to actually that we are going to cover. It's actually related to data aggregation. Now data aggregation is actually related to what? That you want to aggregate the data. Now there may be the different concerns that how you're going to collect the data. It may be the case that you have the data D1, you have the data D2, and further it may be the case that it will may be related to some same category, and it may be related to that is actually related to some different category, that is something related to some different resource out there. And also it may be related to that it may be related to some particular time frame, and further it may be related to it is related to some different time frame out there. So based upon that we need to categorize the data based upon the resources, based upon the time frames out there, and based upon the same we are having the different categories. So based upon that we are first of all having the time aggregation over there, where every single data point that basically pertains to single source, we are talking about single resource over there, and based upon the different time range over there you're going to collect the data from the same point over there for some particular period. Let's take the case that you're basically getting the data from the same resource for the time period T1, for the time period T2, for the time period T3, and time period could be a day, a minute, 5 minutes, or even 1 year. Okay, that basically depends. And the other type it's related to the spatial aggregation. Now in case of spatial aggregation, you're basically looking for the single data point for the collection of resources, where basically you're not basically getting the data from single resource, but you're getting the data from the different resources over there pertaining to the different time frames, right? And you're aggregating the data from the different resources over there for the different time frames over there. That is a spatial aggregation. Okay, so that these are the different two types related to the data aggregation. And after that, the time interval for the data collection period, like I told you, the time frame for the reports. And now the time intervals could be related to what? The time interval could be related to the reports over there. Like basically we want to do what? That before the dissemination of the data, that we, while basically providing the data reports over there, we must be collecting the data for some particular time range, for some particular time frame over there before the let's say processing of the same, pre-processing of the same, right? So reporting period could contain the raw data points as well as the aggregated data points. So whatsoever the reporting period over there, let's say case if you want to take the data, aggregate the data for this particular reporting period. Now for this particular reporting period we may be having the data which may be a raw data. It may be the case that it includes raw data, as well as it may be containing the aggregate data for the different, from the different resources, from the different time frames over there, right? And the time intervals will be depending on what? That this particular reporting period will be depending on what? It depends upon what reporting period does we require, right? Like we basically do require the reporting period for 1 month or for 1 year, for quarter basis. That basically depends upon us, right? That's basically the time frame for reports. And the other criteria for the same, it's related to granularity. It's related to granularity, right? It basically means what? That you're basically going to get the data points from the same resource. Let's say case we are having a single resource over there, or specific resource over there, or we are having the collection of resources R1, R2, R3. These are the different resources over there, and particularly for the different purposes we are going to get the data for the different time frames over there. That's related to what? That is said to be the granularity. For this particular time frame we are going to getting the data from single resource or from the multiple resources over there, and we are going to get the data points from the same. And granularity can be ranging from anywhere. Like we basically want to get the granularity data for a single minute, for particularly let's say 1 day or 2 day, something like that, right? That basically depends upon what? That basically depends upon the type of our report, right? And further it's related to voting time period or the polling period. Voting time period or the polling period over there, right? So first one, it was related to reporting time frame, and the second one, it was related to the granularity, and the third one, it's related to the voting time period. Okay, so length of the time period which the frequency with the resources are sampled. Like let's say case we are going to sample the data points or the resources at what frequency, that is actually said to be what, that is said to the voting time period or polling period, that at what time we are going to fetch the data from these resources, okay. So that is what, that is actually the voting time period or the polling period over there, right? Now particularly it's related to, after that it's related to forecasting, after that it is related to the forecasting. Now what do you mean forecasting? Forecasting actually gives the companies a ability, what ability, that particularly that they can be mapping out that what their next steps will be. They can set up the budgets for the same, they can cover any unpredictability in the future that may arise, right? So that's basically related to forecasting, that we want to look ahead, right? So the method could be qualitative research approach. Now in case of qualitative research approach, it's actually subjective method. If we are talking about the qualitative forecasting or qualitative research approach, it's basically subjective method, or we can say it is actually judging method. It is a judging method. Why judging method? Because whosoever the experts are there, they will be having their personal findings, and whatsoever the predicaments are there, based will be based upon their own judgment. So there is a very huge chance of error in the same, in the predictions out there, right? And the second one, it's related to quantitative technique. Now in case of the quantitative technique, you are using the mathematical statistical techniques. In case of quantitative techniques, we are actually looking for mathematical version of the same, that based upon the data, based upon the trends, based upon the different synergies, we are basically looking for the future events, and it's quite accurate the same, right? And in that particular scenario, we are using enormous volume of the data and the statistics, and then the results are particularly interpreted, right? Further, what are the features of forecasting? Definitely it basically involves a future event, which is actually essential for the planning process over there. And further, it covers the recent events over there, it covers the trends over there, it covers the historical occurrences over there, and further uses various techniques for the forecasting over there. Now what is the process of forecasting? First of all, we must be looking at the foundation, that what is the purpose of forecasting, why we are going to forecast. That is the foundation of the forecasting, that is the first step, right? The second one, it's related to formulating the projections, like based upon the ongoing activities. Let's say case we have found our objective. Now based upon the current scenarios, based upon our current performance, we are going to look for the projections. Okay, so based upon the current, we are going to look for the projections out there, right? And the third one, it's related to that when we have basically found the projections, we will be making the adjustments to those projections, because there may be some changes, there may be some errors, right? And those particular can be adjusted based upon the historical data, those can be changed or adjusted based upon the recent trends or recent projections or broke down, which have been analyzed by the analysts over there, right? And for the differences can be taken into consideration, right? And the fourth one, it's related to taking a look back at the step. That is a look back. Now look back is actually related to what, that at each and every step out there, at each and every stage out there, that is the first stage, second stage, third stage, at every stage there must be a check, and further we'll be tweaking the things as per the same, right? It's not the case whatsoever we'll be getting or whatsoever we'll be saying that will be all happening, right? We need to tweak the situations based upon the historical data, based upon the recent trends out there, and further that's the main thing, that's the looking back the step out there, right? So these are the four main things related to process of forecasting. Okay, after that it's related to the data visualization. Now data visualization is actually related to what? Now data visualization helps us to find the anomalies, to find the trends very easily. Like we are having a huge set of data, and further if we found a some particular some graphs are there, graphical visualization is there, and definitely that scenario we can be understanding it very easily. Let's say case in a particular class there were students who got different marks. Let's say there were some students who got marks above 60, there were some students who got marks above 80. Now we basically draw a pie chart based upon the same, that this particularly showcase the percentage of students who have scored more than 80%, who have scored more than 90% or 10%, and who have scored more than those particularly more than 50, those are particularly 65%. So we can directly be getting an idea, we can directly be inferring the things from the chart out there. That's particularly related to the data visualization. We can be using the charts, we can be using the plots, infographics, or the animations can be used. And this is actually used so as to communicate easily. When we have to communicate the things, if we're presenting in a very good manner, definitely we can communicate the things very much easily. And according to the Harvard Business Review, primary functions of the data visualizations can be broken down into four main categories. That's actually related to the idea creation. If we talk about the visualization, it's related to what? As per the Harvard Business Review, first of all, it's related to idea creation. The second one, it's related to idea illustration, that how we are going to illustrate the idea, how we are going to showcase the idea. And the third one is related to visual discovery, how we can be visualizing it, visual discovery. And the fourth one, it's related to everyday data. So the data visualization can be broken down in such a manner, right? So there are four main things related to the data visualization. Further, it's related to types of data visualization. It could be in the form of tables. The data can be visualized in the form of tables. It will be grid of columns and rows. The second one, it could be related to pie charts can be there. The stacked bar charts can be there. Line graphs can be there. Like we are having this particular chart and you're having the line, something like that, right? That's a line chart. And also it could be a area chart where particularly some area related to something. Let's say case there are two lines and this is area, which is basically color shown in red, and further this area is shown in blue out there. So we can basically be saying that area that comes under this particular graph is red, and area that comes under this particular line is blue over there, right? And we can get a particular idea related to it. And also it could be related to histogram. Now histogram basically depicts the distribution of number using a bar chart over there. So it's actually related to that you are having some bars over there, and further you can predict the data from the same, right? And if there is any anomaly, let's say case for some particular year the data is quite low, so we can find the anomaly very easily, that there here is exists some anomaly over there, right? And further it could be related to, it could be a scatter plot. Now as in the case of the regression, it is widely used. Let's say case we are having a scatter graph, and further we can basically be predicting the how two coordinates are related to each other, how two variables are related to each other. That basically showcase it. It's a scatter plot over there. And also it could be a heat map. Let's say case that we are looking at the population map, and further it's a map drawn for about a country, and further it is very much dense at some particular part, and it's very much light at some other part over there. The in-depth part basically shows what, that there is a very huge population that is living residing in that particular area, and the part which is basically lighten up, that basically indicates that there is a very few people who are living in that particular area. And also it could be a tree map. Tree map is basically related to, which basically indicates or showcasing the hierarchical data, right? And it's actually very much important and excellent tool if you want to basically compare the proportions of different categories, right? Now after that, it's related to big data analytics. Now big data analytics and data mining are somewhat related, but big data is actually used for very huge and diverse data sets out there. Let's say case that you are having a very huge unstructured data, you're having very huge structured data, you have very huge semi-structured data, and you're having a total of the same. Like there was very huge individual set, and further you're having a very huge total set out there. It means you're having very huge data into three, right? And further you are having the data from the variety of sources, you're having the different ranges of data. It may be in terabytes, it may be zettabytes. And further it's related to that you want to capture the data, important data from this particular data over there. Okay, so this is a very large or complex data, and you want to infer the information from the same, right? And for the big data is basically characterized by its huge volume, very high velocity, very high diversity over there. And three properties are out there simultaneously. What are the three main properties? That's related to very high volume. First, it's related to very high volume, and further it's related to very high velocity, that you are basically receiving all the data, very huge data in real time out there. And the third one is related to very high diversity, that the data is very much diverse, and further the data may be unrelated, the data may be not related, or maybe merely somewhat related, right? And for instance, it may be the case that you're having the data from the sensors out there, devices out there, video audio data over there. Let's say case of simple case, let's say case of YouTube. On YouTube on daily basis, let's say 10 lakhs videos are being uploaded. Now YouTube wants to check each and everything. YouTube want to rank those particular videos out there, and particularly also you want those videos to be ranked very much appropriately for you. Now they are actually doing what? They are using these particular techniques only so that you can be looking at a very personalized stuff, right? And further after that, it's leading to use of big data analytics. Now definitely it can enhance the integration to the customer. You can basically be having a very good basically you can represent as yourself as very good service providers to the customers, and you can minimize the frauds, you can determine the anomalies, and it can helping you so as to improve your overall supply chain, right? And after that, it's leading to big data in real life. It is useful in manufacturing, retail, healthcare, oil, gas, telecommunication. You name the industry, it is actually useful over there. You can check out the list later on that wherever it can be used, right? And after that, it's related to the importance of big data analysis. Definitely it reduces the cost somewhat. It basically involves a very huge cost in the initial parts over there, but later on if you are using it a very at a very good points over there for a long period over there, it can reduce your overall cost. It is very much speedier, and further quality decisions can be taken, and further it can help you to be dynamic and so as to create the new markets for the new services out there, right? Now, how big data analytics actually does work, right? Let's have a look at it. First of all, you're going to collect the data. I told you that you're going to collect the data from the structured sources, from the unstructured sources. It means the data is related or not related. So it's related to collection of data, right? That's the first step. And the second one is related to processing the data. You want to get the data be ready for the big data analytics purposes, right? So that will be related to processing the data. So whatsoever the garbage is there, you want to remove that. Whatsoever the clutter is there, you want to remove that. For that particular purpose, two techniques are there. Either you can be going for batch processing. Batch processing, let's say that we are having a very huge amount of data. It cannot be processed all at once, because otherwise you will be idle. For your system will be idle if you're going to process each and every data, and further then you will be processing it, right? So you do what? Basically you divide the data into chunks, and you basically start doing the batch processing, and further one batch is processed, then further it is passed on, and other batch is processed, then it is passed on, and it works like that. And for the second one, it's related to stream processing. Stream process is quite in real time. It's particularly quite in real time. It's like a stream that's particularly whatsoever is coming, it's basically going into the rule, that is going into the rule. And further, batch processing is valuable technique to utilize, but let me just tell you that it is extremely usable. It basically examines relatively smaller batches. If we're talking about the stream processing over there, it basically examines smaller batches over there, but all at once, and cutting the amount of time that basically passes between collection of data and further analysis, take the decisions over it. So it basically it's a time saver, right? And after that, it's related to data cleaning. Now when we have processed the data over there, now there comes a thing related to that you need to clean the data cleans, but whatsoever the unwanted data is there, you want to remove that particular data. And further you will be using the data mining technique so as to sort the data, categorize the data, and further you'll be using the predictive analytics out there so that you can be predicting the orders, you can create the forecast about the same. You'll be using the deep learning techniques for the same. Now deep learning is actually related to what? That you will be using the machine learning so as to make your machine intelligent, so as to act as the human, so as to basically go as per the human learning patterns over there. You'll be using the machine learning, you'll be using the artificial intelligence. So and further a layer of algorithms will be there. You want to find out the patterns which are most complicated so as to extract the data from the same, right? So in case of data cleaning, you're going to use the data mining, you're going to use a predictive analysis, you're going to use a deep learning over there, and that's all related to that how does the big data works, right? And for the big data analytics and tools and technology, let's have a look at these are the different tools which are actually used for the big data analytics. First of one, it's related to Hadoop is very common one, and it's an open source system. Open source means that its code is available to everyone. Anyone basically who is having the knowledge of the code can be contributing to the community, can be using the code, something like that, right? That's actually related to the open source system over there. And further, the Hadoop does what? Actually Hadoop actually stores the data. It stores the data, and further after that it analyzes the data, large data set over there, and further it does that in a very efficient manner. It does that in a very efficient manner. And further, the framework, this particular Hadoop framework, can be managing a very huge and massive structured and unstructured form of data, right? And further, it's free to use. As I told you, it's basically open source over there. And the second one, it's related to NoSQL. No SQL, that is sequential query language, that is no SQL, that is no sequential query language over there. And further, when you're having a very huge amount of raw data, where we use a NoSQL, when you are having a very huge amount of raw data, then you particularly use this NoSQL out there, right? And NoSQL can be deal with the wide variety of the data models out there. It is commonly used where you're having a very huge raw data. And the third one is related to map reduce. Now, MapReduce is actually a component which was there in Hadoop, which can be used in Hadoop too, right? So it's basically a component based on the Hadoop framework. And for this particular framework serves two main different things out there. First one, it's related to mapping, that you can be mapping one particular data to the other, that how this particular data set is actually related to the other data set over there. Or you can be basically first of all distributing the data into the different clusters, and further can be finding the linkages between the same, right? So overall, it basically organizes the data and condenses the result obtained from the each node. So basically it considers whatsoever the clusters are there, those are considered as the nodes over there. It basically finds a relationship between the same, and overall basically reduces what, that in how much time your query will be responding, that will be reduced, because these two things are now very much condensed, right? That's the main funda related to map reduce. Further, it's related to yarn. Yarn is actually a component, is another component of the second generation of the Hadoop. Okay, so map reduce and yarn both are the components or Hadoop. So map reduce is actually based upon the framework of Hadoop, and for the yarn, that is yet another resource negotiator. Resource negotiator, it's a component of Hadoop over there, right? Second generation of Hadoop. It can be used for job scheduling, resource management, or in the cluster over there. It is actually useful for the same, that if you want to basically schedule a particular job means you want to do some particular task in the main data stream over there, or further you want to basically do want to manage the resources over there, that is for resource management. It is particularly used for the same. And further, it's related to Spark. It's related to Spark is actually also open source. It's also open source computing network over there. And Spark particularly can handle the batch and stream processing. It can both be handling the batch as well as stream processing. I've already told you about the batch processing, and further about the stream processing, and Spark can be handling the both, right? And further, it's related to table u. It's related to table u. Okay. Now what is actually table U? It's basically end-to-end data analytic and techniques over there. So it can be doing each and everything, whether preparing the data, analyzing the data, collaborating the data, share your insights. Okay, so it can be doing everything. So that's related to table U. So these are the different particular, we can say, big data tools and technology out there, right? Further, it's related to what are the different challenges which are being faced in big data over there. First of all, it's costly. It's maintaining the data quality is quite important, and that's quite difficult out there. That's the first thing. Data security is the other one, because the big companies can take the benefit of the same, but the data security related to process is what, that you need to work toward the compliance. You need to work toward the compliance over there, so that's quite difficult. The third one, identifying appropriate tools and platform, that's also very much difficult out there, right? So that's why particularly these are the main challenges for the big data. Now let's understand the web and mobile analytics. What do you mean by web analytics? Let's the case that you basically visited a website, and how you're basically flowing through the website. You are using the different options, and you are using the different pages out there. And further, you want to check the flow, and based on that particular flow, you want to showcase your customers appropriate products, or appropriate services, right? So that you can make the most out of it. It's particularly related to web and mobile analytics, right? But there's some constraints which are available, like we are using the cookies. Cookies are not that much secure, first of all, and further, those never can be helping you each and every time out there. And further, in case of particular users, if you are particularly they are using the mobile, it's very much difficult so as to check out that whether it's the same user who is actually basically has visited the website. So there are many constraints related to the same, right? There are different problems which are actually associated with the tracking in the case of mobile analytics and in the case of the web analytics. First of all, it's related to the visitor identification. Now, this is the most critical and most difficult components as to achieve in the case of the mobile web analytics over there. Now, see, JavaScript is here, HTTP is there, HTTP cookies are there, but that is not reliable in case of the mobile devices. It may be the case that some of the devices may not be supporting the HTTP cookies, or they may not be supporting the JavaScript out there. I know that a lot of the devices, let's say 90% of the devices do support the same, but some of the devices may be there which will not be basically be tracking the JavaScript, right? And further, we can be using the JavaScript page tagging. Now, JavaScript page tagging is something that when a page will be loaded, it will be sending a response to the server out there. And further, when this JavaScript node is particularly sending a response to the server will be knowing that this particular web browser on which the website is being opening is actually supporting the JavaScript, right? So that can be used, and either we can be using the HTTP cookies. Now, HTTP cookies is something related to when you are actually visiting a website. Some of your data, user data, is actually stored on that particular in the form on that particular browser in the form of cookies, right? And further, even though you'll be visiting after some days, let's say 5 days, 10 days, 90 days, you can still be retrieving that particular data, and you won't have to fill that particular form. You must have seen that sometimes you actually do fill the forms, but when you're basically going to that particular some page, still the form data is there. How it's possible? It's possible by way of the HTTPs over there, right? HTTP cookies over there. Further, it's related to image tags. Now, the image tags can be cached off the handheld devices, like if you're having a mobile, and further, particularly if your the image is particularly cached, you can label that particular thing that you have cached that particular image, and further you can retrieve that if it is particularly tracked over there. And if you are going for IP address, now if you're using a desktop device, let's say you are using a PC, full-fledged PC, in that particular scenario, it will be having a IP address of its own, and further it will be shared with the server out there, right? But when you are using a mobile device, in that particular scenario, the mobile is not having a IP of its own, but from the operator from where it's getting the network, the IP of that particular machine is sent to the server over there, right? So it's particularly quite difficult in tracking for that particular case also. And further, it's related to collecting the mobile web analytics data. Now, it could be related to packet sniffing. Now, packet is particularly when you're sending the data in form of the packets. Let's say case we want to transfer the data from source D1 to D2 over there. Now, the full data will not be sent as a whole packet over there, but it will be sent in smaller chunks, and that is said to be what? That is said to be packets, right? And further, let's say if something is in between the transmitter and receiver and on the network, and particularly which can sense whatsoever is being sent between the server and the consumer over there, they can be look at that what is actually being sent and what is actually being received by the server, right? And further, it's related to image tags or beacons. Now, it is actually possible so as to coerce the images into functioning for mobile web analytics. Like basically when you're sending the images, along with the images, the other data is also being sent. That's particularly in the form of the image beacons over there, right? Further, it could be the link redirection. Let's say case that we basically were on website A, and we basically clicked to so as to open the website B over there, but instead of website B, it basically redirected us to website C over there. When basically we landed on website B, it basically told the server that we have come from this particular website, and further we are now navigated to this particular website. So we can be thefting the data in that particular manner also, right? We can be looking for the data in that particular manner also. And also there is particular different sections, like we are having the header section, we are having the body section, we are having the footer section in the website. Now in header section, there are many tags which can be used for the analysis purposes, that what is the main purpose of the user over there. So we can be using the header analysis, from which source this user is coming from, to which source the user is heading toward. So we can be getting that particular information, right? And IP address analysis, as I've earlier told you, that IP addresses itself are not sufficient to identify the mobile network operators over there, but sometimes they particularly share their mobile networks with virtual network operators also, from where you can get some relevant information. Further, it's related to WAP gateway traffic logs. Now, whensoever we are actually accessing the websites, we are actually accessing them through the internet gateways, right? And further, that is a WAP, that is a web access portal. And particularly whensoever a user log into that particular thing, that a log is created from where it came and where it going. So that particular log can be used as to extract the useful information from there. We can be extracting that particular information from there, right? Further, it's related to sessionization. Now, what is actually sessionization? Sessionization is actually the main distinction between the analytics and for the mobile analytics over there. And in that particular scenario, let me just tell you, sessionization is actually done whenever a session ID is generated. Let's say the case that a user visited a website and it's a server-based website. So whenever it will be logging to the server, a new session ID will be generated. Each and every time when a user will be opening the website, whether it's a registered user or not, a session ID will be assigned to this particular user, and this will be available for a longer period in case of web users when you're using a desktop, and will be available for a shorter duration when the website is being opened through a mobile device, right? And further, And further, the behavioral analytics monitor the length of time of user session. Like we can sense for what time long this user was online, for what time long this user was online, and based upon that, we can sense the thing that what was the different interactions of the user in that particular time, right? And further, when we compare the same thing on the mobile device, as I told you, in case of mobile device, the sessions are basically for a smaller duration of time, smaller period of time, right? And further, let's understand the importance of business analytics. First of all, it can be helping us so as to business, boost our business, whether we are talking about the data mining, whether we are talking about the data aggregation, or further we are talking about the forecasting or something. It actually helps us a lot so as to boost our performance. It actually enable us that we can be taking the decisions more quickly and more accurately. We can be reducing our overall negative outcomes over there. We can basically go for the creativity, that basically it is very much important to us, right? And further, if we talk about the benefits of the business analytics, we can actually be making much more better decision. We can be monitoring our performance, we can be reducing the overall risk, we can be enhancing the customer experience. And what are the different challenges to the analytics? First of all, it's related to lack of commitment. Why lack of commitment? Because the business analytics is time consuming as well as very much costly, and cost factors leave many people feeling that if they don't use it for a longer period, so they are not committed to usage of it. So that's actually lack of commitment. That's the first challenge. Second, it's related to low quality of data. Now the real question is related to that whatsoever the outputs you're getting or whatsoever the input data is there, is it reliable, is it correct, or is it accessible? That's the main question related to it. And the third main challenge, that's related to privacy concern, because it can lead to the customer's privacy breach. Definitely you are basically accessing the user data without their consent or maybe with their consent, but it still leads to privacy breach, right? Because you're let's say is that you're talking over the phone, and for the, let's say, Google is listening to your calls and for the showcasing you personalized ads over there. So basically it's breach of data or breach of privacy somewhere, right? And for that, it's related to business analytics skills. What skills are required? You must be having a critical thinking, you must be thinking upon the pertinent things again and again, and further you must be knowing the criticality of the thing over there. And further, you must be having the ability to solve the problems over there. You must be having effective communication through writing and presenting it essentially, right? And you must be having curiosity to know that why this thing is happening and what thing led to formation of this particular thing. And further, you must be paying attention to a little even details over there so that you can be finding out the most out of the content which is available to you, right? So that would be all related to this particular video and related to this particular chapter. That, and I hope that you must have liked the content and the video of particularly. So do like this video and do watch this video, and do not forget to rate this video out of 10, and do share this video among your friends and colleagues who have been preparing for CAIIB 2024. And let me tell you that the full course is available on our website, and just on sign up you will be getting access to all the PDFs out there. So simply do enroll around and start preparing for the same. Thank you so much, and see you again in the next video.